It's time to dad. Hey guys, I'm Nick, founder of Time to Dad podcast. I'm here with the other guys in the core group, and we wanted to take just a couple minutes in this intro podcast just to kind of give you guys an idea of what you can expect, what we're about, what our goals are, and kind of how we came together. I think the most important part that makes this group unique is when we came together, none of us, we didn't know each other. It kind of spurred from me coming up with this initial idea of wanting to start a podcast, knowing nothing about podcasting. And so I kind of put a feeler out in some dad groups on Facebook. And the guys you see here with me today were gracious enough to reach out and kind of grab my hand and take this journey with me. And so we just wanted to take a couple minutes here, kind of give you some in-depth viewpoints and our ideas and goals for this group. So to kick things off, we're just going to run through, do a couple of quick intros so you can meet everybody on the podcast. I'll start. My name is Nick. I'm from Virginia, married with 2 kids.
Hi, Chris. I'm from Northern California, currently in the process of divorcing. Have 2 teenage boys.
Sorry for my crazy reaction. I'm Alex, father of 2, currently live in North Carolina. Hopefully one day I'll move back to California, which is where I'm from, which is why I'm so crazy and weird.
I'm Brian, father of 3. I live up here in Canada.
I am Luke, father of 5, dad at 17, originally from South Africa, and now living in Florida with my wife and our 4 kids.
And I'm Joe. I am from Long Island, New York. I got to play a little catch up. I only have 1, but hopefully more in the future. And 1 little boy, going to be 2.
Sweet. So the underlying theme here is we are obviously all dads. We have a special guest with Alex tonight over there. And so that that kind of brings me to how this group came together and how I came up with the idea. And the main thought process I had was when I put out the feeler on Facebook to try and get some dads together. It was because I kind of realized I don't know anything about podcasting. I can cover a bunch of topics on my own, but it kind of dawned on me, what if I can pull from a bigger group of knowledge, or what if I can pull in, 5 different ideas or viewpoints on a particular topic. And so that kind of led me to this group idea where everyone is free to share their opinion, their viewpoint on any of the topics. Our goal is not to preach anything to you, not to tell you that this is the only way to do something, but more just to provide as many different perspectives as we can. And talking about how the group came together, guys, what kind of drew you when you saw the post to kind of to reach out to me and get involved?
So for me, it was twofold. The first is I'm actually an intensely private individual, but I like to try to push my boundaries. So this is honestly an uncomfortable thing for me to do, but I also love to learn from other people. What better way to learn than from other dads? And that's something that I can apply to how I'm raising my kids to be young men.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. So I think what drew me to this whole podcast idea was the opportunity to be helpful to other, whether it's young men or other dads that, struggle with, X, Y, and Z, different reasons. I mean, we all have different backgrounds, different experiences, but it's very open-ended, this whole podcast situation. And it just, I don't know, it just drew me. The opportunity to be helpful, because we've all had, different struggles, but the opportunity to be helpful to somebody, whether it's a position of a mentor or, whatever, it's just that's what drew me to this group.
I think I got drawn in because I saw an opportunity to connect with a bunch of really great other dads to share some perspective that I have on life. And I've always had the thought of putting a podcast together myself, but kind of like Nick said, I didn't have the first clue how to get into it or what to do or even how to start on anything like that. And when I saw Nick reach out, I went, you know what? This is a great time. Let's jump in here and see where this journey goes, because everything we do is about a new opportunity, a new journey, and seeing where it goes. And that was really what it was for me. The opportunity, a bunch of great dads, and seeing what we can do with this.
I think for me it was, I was a dad at 17. I was a high school runaway, and it was just baptism by fire, flying blind kind of thing into parenting. And that was pre-internet days, so you just went on whatever mom told you or mother-in-law told you or whoever. And I think that with technology and where we are now, to be able to be a voice of reason or a voice of guidance to help a young father who's struggling or young parent who's struggling, it will just make a big difference.
For sure. Yeah, I think it's a little bit of everything, that kind of drew me there. I mean, I think, I was not in maybe the same situation as some others. Everything in my life kind of always, but I don't think that you could ever to be a dad, no matter how planned you are for it. And alluding to what Chris said before, I think there's just so much that we can all learn from each other. And I know a lot about what I do on an everyday basis in my career, but I do not know a lot about a lot of other things. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nick. That's part of what you wanted to bring this whole together, because right, you were the one that kind of started this, and right, we were drawn to the podcast, but you were the author, I guess you could say, in that essence. What would you say was kind of like your inspiration to it, and why now?
Yeah. So, speaking of inspiration, just kind of getting this group together in this whole brainstorming process leading up to where we are now, recording the intro episode. That in itself has been super inspiring, just the ideas we've come up with. But as far as my inspiration for wanting to start this podcast, several years ago, I lost my father to a very unexpected heart attack. And in the few days after his funeral, I had typed up a long kind of ode to him on Facebook. And in that ode, I basically described my father as a larger than life superhero. And obviously not in the sense of flying around laser beams, Hulk smashing things, just kind of that force that could, pull me through any bad situation. Always giving me guidance, even if at the time I hated the guidance I was getting. And so it's, losing him kind of right before I became a father myself, I kind of lost that asset that I could go to and ask him the kind of things another dad would ask, their dad. And so that was kind of the idea behind this, is I kind of lost that piece of collaboration with another dad. And so I'm sure I'm not the only dad out there with questions, concerns, wondering what the hell I'm doing some days, or how the heck am I going to get XYZ done. But I just wanted to start a journey that we could all kind of take together, and some things we may already know and some things we may not know. But I think that's going to be the most amazing part about this, is we're all in this boat, and at this point in time, we have a general idea of where we're going, but there's no telling, what kind of topics will cross along the way, what kind of awesome insight will come out of these discussions. But that's my main inspiration behind the group.
So, Nick, you kind of touched base about your dad being a superhero. Is that kind of what inspired the logo?
100%. We had a lot of back and forth on that, and before I even threw it out there, I was like, man, nobody's gonna like the superhero idea, and so I kind of threw it out there. We were working before we have what we have now, we were working with some really bad Canva graphics, and I threw the superhero theme out there. Yeah. And I threw the superhero theme out there, and for whatever reason, it just kind of instantly clicked that was the direction we wanted to go. And so we hemmed and hawed for a few weeks over what we thought the logo should exactly look like. And that's where we landed on what we have today.
I think I'm kind of going to get to meet each other in person. That's a nice unique thing about this podcast. None of us have actually met each other.
Not at all. Yes, maybe the third time we've actually seen each other's faces for some of us, right? On the thing. So it's going to be a wild ride.
I know.
Oh, go ahead, Nick.
No, you go, because I was going to transition us to a new topic.
Oh, I was going to throw us into, I know we've previously touched base about some goals, and one of our big goals was doing a roundtable meetup one day.
You're a mind reader, sir. That's where I was going. Yes. I mean, big picture goals. We've talked about things like, trying to encourage dads to form their own little tribes, their own little groups, get together, grab a beer, grab a coffee, have a cookout. But along with inspiring others together, that's one of the challenges, but also one of the goals for us being a part of this podcast is, none of us knew each other. We know each other's backgrounds a little bit, but we've only been kind of at this process for a couple months now. So there's a lot more to explore. So that's meeting up and forming meetups for all of our listeners is definitely one of our serious long-term goals. So as we're getting ready to kind of wrap up this episode, I guess one of the other things we want to kind of talk about is topics and what kind of things we'll be covering. So I'll go ahead and share with you what I think one of my favorite topics is, and then I'll let the rest of the guys chime in on what theirs are. But for me, I think talking about kids. So, things you can do with your kids, teaching your kids life skills, interacting with them, and the many varieties of behaviors that you can get from a child throughout life, and kind of coaching them through life is probably my favorite topic.
The one that I'm probably most excited about right now is around setting goals, whether it's personal, it's business, it's with our families and our kids, especially around helping kids understand that failure is okay. The more that we can do that so that people are willing to take risks, I think the payoff is much greater if you're willing to put yourself in a position where you can fail and learn from it.
I think my topic of choice is mental health. I'm a huge advocate for mental health. My background is a military individual, and unfortunately, I do suffer from PTSD, and it is something that it took me many years to address. So I think from my point of view, it's a topic that just needs to be addressed more. And thankfully, the kids of nowadays, that's a huge priority for them as well. So that's very important to me.
I think there's a lot of exciting topics that everyone's going to cover. For myself here, it's going to be a great passion of mine is business. We're going to be able to dig into entrepreneurship. We're going to be able to dig into starting businesses, whether you're the CEO or you're just getting a business fired up, or you want to talk about the leadership and the management within a business. Just all aspects of business can be really exciting.
I think for me, it's just to be a real general resource for being a dad. Parenting is arguably the hardest job I've ever done, and finding a way to balance, especially now in this day and age where fathers are way more involved with kids than they used to be by reputation, and it's hard keeping balance with work, with your kids, and then still keeping the passion alive in a relationship. So any way we can help with that.
For sure. Yeah. And, one of the topics I'm, I guess, excited about, but I think it'll be kind of open up interesting doors. Is I was not a big social media guy, and then when you have kids, you start to kind of get a little bit bigger on it because I guess it's a new excitement, right, of posting and showing people things like that. But what came with social media is you always kind of see as the saying goes, keeping up with the Joneses, and some of the things that people really don't have, but they're portraying they have. And what I think that unfortunately does will really kind of almost tie back into a big passion of yours, Alex, where it's going to cause mental health because people feel like they have to compete with other dads of things they see. But everybody came from different backgrounds. Everybody had different startups. Some people had easier, tougher lives, things like that. But it doesn't mean we can't all get to the same goal back that we want to be. But we just see things sometimes on social media, and we portray something, and maybe we fake who we have to be, or people are trying to just find a different route, and sometimes it doesn't end up being the best thing for them as a dad or as a person, and we want to be able to help people stay on the course they want to grow to.
So I think it's important to note, those are 6 super important topics that are kind of near and dear to us, the members of the podcast. But, we've got a ton of other things to cover as well. Grilling, lawn maintenance, taking care of your tools, what tools to buy. We just run the gamut of topics that we've got a backlog of content ideas for. So we hope you guys have enjoyed, listening to a little bit of our backstory, what we're about, and hope you come and check out the first episode.